The Camellia's Bloom podcast launched last June and it has already been a year, mashallah. Last year, I decided to start this community, and with that came a podcast where I shared our stories of how Allah placed in our hearts the seed of Islam, and it grew into our stories of how we converted and became Muslim. This year, I wanted to focus more on, now that the seed has been planted and we begin to grow as Muslims on our journey, how has our blossoming into the deen been like so far? That brings us to this year's theme, identity. We will be discovering everything around the topic of identity, from how has our identity changed since we converted to how we coexist with our ethnic identity as a Muslim. I will sit down with a panel of sisters and we will explore identity and surrounding topics such as marriage, racism, culture, and we will even touch upon how identity can shape and affect the way we practice Islam. It's going to be a very interesting and intricate season to see how we all unfold on this journey to Allah and who we really are after blossoming into the deen. Grab your cup of halal goodness and join us for this season 2 on the Camellia's Bloom podcast with your host Khadija.
I was just thinking to myself when Amanda was talking about when people ask for revert converts, because I can't remember, sorry, my mind's gone blank, but basically they're going to save us and teach us what we know. I just think that I find that such an amazing concept that, so many sisters come to Islam without being with a man that's Muslim, but yet some men come along and think they are the ones that are going to teach us the faith. We're all being brought to the faith for a reason, and it wasn't by way of you. And I just think sometimes I think it's just so arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
it is.
I think it's so patronizing as well. I just think it just reminded me of many years ago when I first became Muslim, and I was speaking to a brother for marriage, and within that culture, it's not kind of accepted to marry someone that's black. So I brought that up and I was saying, what's going to happen? And he said, because I don't care about that. He goes, because I'm going to get so much reward for marrying you because you're a revert and, you don't know anything.
What?
And I continued.
What?
Because I don't know anything and he's going to teach me everything and he's going to get so much reward. And I was... Bye, boy. I didn't know much at the time, but I was like, okay, where did you read this? And he goes, oh, everyone just knows. I was like, do they? I was like, so you're going to get to heaven because you married me and I don't know anything.
Wow.
I just thought, how rude is that? And then I asked him, well, what is it I don't know? And then he couldn't answer me. I thought, yeah, because you never asked. So you haven't got a clue what I do or what I don't know. People just assume. I think those brothers that have that thought process have got their own separate issues that they need therapy for.
Yeah,
SubhanAllah, just adding to what Almas has said just now, I've come across this too, brothers saying, I'll get the reward of helping the new Muslim to find her religion. And you think, well, number one, she's already found it. That was her shahada. But then also flip that around, right? Let's assume that they get extra reward if they help this new Muslim, this poor new Muslim sister who's just, on the verge of being lost if she doesn't marry this dude, right? Let's assume that is the case, that he will get extra reward for that. Flip that around. If he does anything that puts her off her faith, what's the punishment?
And they never think about that.
They never think about that. And yet that's what they do. How many sisters do we know who got into a marriage, it ended badly, and it put them off Islam so much that they've removed their hijab, they're living the Jahil lifestyle. I'm not going to say they've left the religion, but they've definitely hit pause on practicing Islam. Aren't they accountable for that? Because their behavior and their mistreatment of that poor woman put her off.
Exactly.
They married her at a time when she wasn't that firmly established in her religion, and then they ruined it for her, basically. These brothers need to fear Allah with what they're saying. If they think they're getting extra rewards, surely they'll also get extra punishment if they put them off. But nobody thinks like this. They think of the roses and and let's be honest, what they're actually thinking is that they're going to manipulate her and mold her into what they want. I really wish I were wrong on this, but I've just seen it so many times. Thank you. You're all about the sound effects today, aren't you? Okay, I'm going to stop ranting now and give someone else a chance.
No, it's so good though. That's so. I'm just listening. I'm like,
I've said to brothers before that if they understood what they are taking on with getting married, they wouldn't get married. Men of today wouldn't. I'm not saying men. I think men of a different generation was a whole different story. I think the youth of today, if they fully understood what marriage is, they would not get married because most of them aren't ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The man has so much responsibility. And I don't think I think now because we've got this whole women's movement of, I'm independent, I can do type thing. They've forgotten their role. They've completely forgotten what they should be doing as a husband. I don't know. I think we need some type of, is it marriage? I know Christians and I know a lot of Jewish rabbis do it. The premarital
counseling,
yeah.
Definitely. They do it in Malaysia, apparently. Somebody was saying that before you're allowed to get married, the man and the woman who are going to get married have to take a course together about marriage life.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And they have to pass it, and then they're allowed to get married. There's also another option that people don't really talk about, but it is done culturally in some places, which is where, obviously in Islam, you're either married or you're not, right? Like you can't spend time with each other alone if you haven't done your contract, if you haven't done your nikah contract. But what a lot of cultures do is they'll do the aqd, they'll do the contract, but they'll treat it like an engagement. So it's like the couple doesn't move in together, they don't live together, they don't spend the night together. So it's like they're not necessarily actually consummating the relationship, but it's halal for them to spend time alone together. So they can meet up, they can go out, they can spend time together, they can chat on the phone without being chaperoned and all of that. They get this chance to really know each other. If it doesn't work out and they divorce, if they haven't spent time alone together, then there's no iddah on them. And it's just a broken engagement as far as society is concerned. Right?
Yeah.
And this is something that, okay, it's not from the sunnah. The sunnah is you're married, obviously, but it's a way that young people can get to know each other without making that full-on commitment to move in together and all of that stuff. And they can see, do I really like this person or does it not work out? And I know a lot of convert sisters who have done it this way because, obviously we're coming from a culture where you don't just marry someone after you've known them for a few weeks.
Right.
Right. I mean, half of the time here in the UK, you've had 3 kids before you decide to walk down the aisle. So, we're not advocating for that. But what it is that it gives you a halal framework in which to get to know somebody. And, if Allah forbid, but if it doesn't work out, okay, there's no shame in it because it's not like you've moved in and you've announced it and you've had the big wedding and everything and then it doesn't work out. Do you know what I mean? And I think more and more people are doing it this way, doing their contract, but not having the wedding and moving in and all of that, to give them that time where they are halal to be alone with each other, but they're treating it like a get to know you period. And in the absence of really good premarital courses, because we don't have those in the UK. There are a few here and there, but I don't know how good they are. But in the absence of that, this can work and this can save a lot of headache. And plus, presumably you get to know the person to a degree before you even commit to this level. So, you're not just signing a paper with anybody who comes along with some random, you're actually looking into the person, background checking them and everything. So, you have an idea. But it also gives you that gradual getting to know you and gradual getting accustomed phase, as opposed to going from being single one day to being married and living together the next, which can be a massive shock to the system. But for people like myself or Almas who've been married before as well, because we're more mature, we're probably also more set in our ways. So having this period of being able to get to know somebody without worrying about crossing any boundaries with Allah, but also without the pressure of the full-on marriage and moving in together and all of that. There's a lot of wisdom behind it. Like for me, the thought of having somebody living in my home with me 24/7 is daunting. Do you know what I mean? Because, I've got my life and I've got my stuff that I do and all of that. It's like, not that I would mind it. Eventually I would like it, but it's also a little bit scary. Whereas if you've had that time to get to know the other person, and develop a relationship with them, and you're not freaking out that, am I flirting? Am I crossing any red lines? Has he said something inappropriate? Because it's all halal at the end of the day, right? You've moved out of the courting stage where you have to be watching your behavior. And now you're into a stage where, you can flirt a bit. You can even hold their hand when you walk down the street. It's not haram. But you've removed the pressure of the whole societal implication of marriage and being a husband and wife. I think that there's massive advantages to that too, even for not so young people as myself.
Oh, please.
Yeah, I'm not so young, but alhamdulillah in all things.
You always say that, but I just don't think you're not old.
And I was on one of these marriage apps, and this boy messaged me, 24 years old. And not only was he 24, he was married and had 4 children and was looking for a second wife.
Wow.
I mean, you gotta credit his audacious goals here, right? Like, okay, mashallah, you've got confidence, kid. But, and I mean, I just remember I messaged back saying, I've just had a look at your profile. Have you looked at mine? and he was, and of course, what do they say? Well, what's the, age is just a number. You can be my Khadija.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, and actually,
it's just no.
This is one of my red flags, by the way.
Oh, that's a massive red flag. You can be my Khadija. Yeah, no. I'm not her and you're definitely not him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So please, just don't even
go there.
Don't even try it.
Oh gosh, subhanallah. Honestly,
it's interesting.
Cringe.
Endless
entertainment. The apps are good for entertainment.
Yeah, but listen, I know Queenie is like younger than us and stuff. Don't go on the apps, Queenie. Save yourself.
Save your sanity.
I'm on one actually.
Oh no!
Which one?
Okay. We will bring this up off air. We need a database. We need a database of the creeps.
Do you know something? There is actually an imam who's trying to get one. He's trying to get a database. Yeah, because he gets sisters all the time coming to him where he lives, and he's noticed it's the same names that crop up. These sisters don't know each other, but when they're saying this person is noticing the same names keep coming up over and over again.
Allah,
and there's a sister and her husband who run a Facebook group, and they are noticing the same thing. It's the same names, the same people.
Yeah, you see that. You do see that
again. Yeah.
One of my friends was saying this, like there's a lot of, and especially in the so-called Dawah, the Dawah brothers, there's a lot of them that are predators.
Wow, really?
There's a few who, like, I won't name names now, but
you should name them.
Oh, they will be named. They will be named. But like, there's been a few who just like, they give me
like
the creeps.
famous ones
in the UK, maybe a little bit known. And every time somebody calls them out, they're just said, you're just an Islamophobe trying to slander a good brother who's calling to Allah. And it's like, no, he literally sent me nudes. Not trying to slander anyone. Yeah. Astaghfirullah. It's really bad.
Shocked, but not shocked.
So this is another advice is do not look for what I call mashallah brothers. The ones that are in the public eye and doing everything. Find yourself a nice, humble, down-to-earth guy who might be a little bit boring, but he's not famous and he's not corrupted.
Yeah. But don't be put off though, Queenie.
I'm scared.
After all this research,
so scared.
But it's just let's put it this way: just because they're Muslim doesn't mean they're any different to any man. Just always keep that in mind, because I think we naturally assume they would be different.
I used to think that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I don't know. Sometimes I think they're worse, to be honest. But Yeah, it's
I think it's worse. It feels worse because they're meant to be better. They're Muslim, for goodness sake. Like, they're meant to be fearing Allah. And so when they don't, you think, wow, really? You don't? You're supposed to be Muslim. But if you look at it, they are just humans like anyone else.
we need background checks in the UK like you have in the States.
You know, for sisters who are looking to get married, if they hear something negative about the guy who they're going to marry, for goodness sake, listen to it.
Yeah.
Take it seriously, because, like, you know, ignore that information at your own risk. I've seen so many sisters who were informed of horrible things about their husbands and chose to ignore it because they were in love. And it's just come back to bite them, really. And now they're dealing with marriages that are on the brink and they're trapped, and, you know, getting a khula is so difficult, and he won't give her a divorce. And, you know, it's so complex. And they could have avoided it if they had just listened when the person told them, look, I know this guy and he does X, Y, and Z, and you don't want that in your life. It's hard. It's hard because once you've formed any kind of attachment in your heart to a person, you don't want to hear the negatives.
Right, of course. You're blinded.
You're blinded, you know, as soon as your emotions get involved. That's why it's also so important to have somebody acting on your behalf, like a guardian, a wakil, you know, because they can look at it with a dispassionate eye and say, you know, okay, before you even talk to him, I'm going to background check the heck out of this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you can go and talk to him and see what he's like and everything, but not doing the background checks, you know, once you've already met 10 times for coffee and gone for a walk in the park and it's been sunny and lovely and he's given you flowers.
Yeah.
Because then he's love bombing you.
And then made empty promises.
Oh, gosh, we're so cynical.
Well,
There
I mean,
are some
how
really
can you not
lovely
be, though?
guys.
Like, just
I know.
recently, a sister that I know, like, she met one online and, like, he love bombed her, made all these empty promises, and she believed him. And then she got married, and it was just opposite, and he was abusive, narcissistic. Yeah,
Well, love bombing is
the
a
one I
red
was telling you
flag.
about. Amanda.
Yeah, but I mean, like, love bombing is a red flag, but we're not taught these things. And this is
like,
another
she didn't
thing.
know. She just thought. I think that's why she was so attracted to him, because she thought, like, oh wow, he's, like, you know, he's good looking. He's being so kind and giving me so much attention, and, you know, all these things. That's how they lure them, you know.
I mean, this is advice that I've learned myself. We need to look at marriage literally like a contract. And I feel we need to have our little, you know, like when you go to an interview and the interviewer's got their tick sheet. We need to go into marriage like this to a certain extent. Just tick off bits. Just tick things off. Forget the emotion side to a certain degree, because, I mean, it's just, I mean, your emotions just cloud things. And we now know that, you know, just because they're Muslim doesn't mean they aren't skillful in being deceptive. You know, they're very good at it. And we just need to think, does this man meet my criteria? Yes or no? And just be very quiet, black and white, because love will come later if it's meant to come. It will grow. And this is why, to a certain extent, I feel like we need to bring back arranged marriages. Not how some cultures do it, but to a certain degree, I feel like arranged marriages are such a good idea. Not the whole you meet 10 seconds and then you're married, not that type of arranged marriage, but just people are involved and the process is, you're quite detached emotionally from the process.
Yeah,
I think we need that, and it would be so much, it would make things less complicated.
I'm actually really shocked amongst my non-vert friends, my heritage Muslim friends. I know quite a lot of young people never been married before, and their parents have completely washed their hands of the whole process. And like we've got young men and young women who really, really want to get married, and they don't know how to go about it, and they don't know where to look. And their parents are just like, sort yourselves out, rather than the parents are involved.
Wow.
I think that's why I said the way some are done. I think culturally, arranged marriages, some cultures have butchered arranged marriages. They've literally just annihilated it, which is why I think these parents now are just saying, I don't want anything to do with it, because they've seen how wrong it can go.
So they've swung in the opposite direction.
So rather than thinking, okay, how can we do this in a way that works, they're just not, let's just not bother doing it. And it can work. Because you think about it, Christians, arranged marriage is not an Islamic thing. It's not, a South Asian thing either. Even just cultures, arranged marriages are normal.
Yeah.
It was quite the norm for a very, very long time.
Oh yeah,
so
it was totally.
It can work. And then something happened in some cultures where it's not arranged, is it? It was forced. And
that's the problem.
They didn't really have the child's interest best in mind. There was child's best interest in mind. It was all about money and status and certain things like that get involved, and then usually this is how they fail. But I think I've said it to my children. It's like, I feel like you might have to have an arranged marriage.
I mean, seriously though, for my kids, I would love to be part of that process, because me as a woman, I'm going to be able to get to know any young women better than they could. And I would probably, most of the pool of eligible bachelorettes that my kids would pick from, I've probably known them since they were children. So, I know if they've been educated well, I know if they've been raised well, I know if they've had, a lot of the times I will know if they've grown up in a toxic family environment, because I will know the mums. Right? All of these things are things that should be looked into. You should think about for your own kids. Do you want them to marry somebody who grew up in a house with abuse that was never resolved, that was never spoken up against? Because that means that they've grown up in a house where it's accepted, for example. Do you want them to grow up in a house? Do you want them to marry somebody who has childhood trauma from abuse that hasn't been addressed? Do you want them to grow up with somebody who's grown up in a family who views culture as superior to Islam, and so on and so forth? And these are things that as parents, we should be able to suss out, because if we're part of our community and we're active in the community, we know who's who and we know what's what, and we know who's been doing what to a degree. Do you know what I mean? And being away from that process as parents is dangerous. We're setting our kids up to fail. And I think, maybe I feel this more keenly because I'm a convert, and so my own parents would never be part of the process. And I've had to sort of fend for myself, so I can appreciate the blessing that having parents to help you through this is. And I don't understand these brothers and sisters who I know who are just like, their parents have just left them, just thrown them to the wolves, basically saying, yeah, go find yourself a husband. How are they supposed to do that? SubhanAllah, especially when, in some cultures where you protect your kids, especially the girls, you don't allow them any sort of social interaction with anyone, let alone a boy. And then you expect them to be able to go out and find their own spouse?
Where are they supposed to find them?
And how? And how are they supposed to know what's a decent person?
Supposed to find it.
Yeah.
No, supposed to find my person.
Yeah, this is it. Other than these apps, which are just like the devil's playground, where are we supposed to find these people? I just don't get it. I mean, you can't walk up to a brother after Jummah Salam like, oh, take my number. There. How? It's just so inappropriate. And then you've got to do what? Ask your friend who's got a brother.
But why? Okay, but hang on. Why is that inappropriate?
I mean, to be honest, I would have done it before being Muslim. I just would never have approached them.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. That's, it's our own personal comfort level. But if we think about it, like, is there anything wrong where if you have met somebody through whatever, through your work, through your volunteering, through school, university, whatever, if you know that there's somebody and you think that they might be suitable, there's absolutely nothing wrong with asking somebody to talk to them on your behalf.
Yeah, that way, yeah.
How did our mother Khadija radiallahu anha marry the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
That's fine. But I think like for instance,
walking up to the brothers after Jummah and saying, hey there. No, we don't do that.
So I would probably have to approach someone, which I just wouldn't. I mean, it's just weird as well. I don't know. It's just crazy. But how are we supposed to do these things if the community is not doing their job in facilitating this for single people, whether they're divorced or never been married? It doesn't make a difference. If the community aren't helping, then this is what leads to people texting and all the things that shouldn't happen. This is what happens because we don't have the community looking out for us. So what do you mean? So when you see younger people together and they're doing whatever. And I'm not saying it's right, but what else are they supposed to do?
I have a friend who's Russian, and she told me that in Russia they have events where they'll bring, it'll basically be a singles event. And so it's like all the single young men and women will gather, and they won't be mixing. They'll be on separate sides of the room, right? So they're respectfully interacting. And they'll have like Islamic reminders, they'll have Islamic quizzes, they'll do different activities. It's like a fun day. And then at the end of it, if anybody is interested in anybody on the other side of the room, they can write it on a piece of paper and give it to the organizers. And the organizers can then go and arrange meetings with their guardians.
They've done that in the UK before.
So, but it's like you don't have any one-to-one interaction with a member of the opposite sex during these events. But they're there in front of you, observable. And
yeah, no, someone did that in the UK. I'm trying to think where it was.
I thought it, and she said to me actually that they had a lot of successful marriages out of these events. And I was thinking to myself, that's actually a really good idea, because like you're just there relaxed, having fun. And what better way to see a potential spouse's character than to see them in a competition of some sort? That tells you a lot. And, you know, you can see the person visually, you can hear the person talking and everything, but there isn't any pressure of interacting. You're just there having fun. And then at the end of it, if there's somebody who caught your eye, you put it on a piece of paper, give it to the organizers, and then they match people up.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It's not this, like, you know, I've heard of this sort of halal speed dating events, and that just sort of filled me with dread. Existential dread at the thought of having to make small talk with a series. I kind of wanted to, as you know, just to tick it off the bucket list, but then it sort of filled me with the dread that, you know, what if somebody actually wanted to pursue anything, and I'm just there for bants, you know,
for fun.
All right, so join us next week as we continue on with our discussion, and make sure to follow us on Instagram at the camelliasbloom.podcast, and make sure to join and be a part of our website community, where you will get a lot of behind the scenes access, support groups, and many more, inshallah.